Today we're making the most detailed small scale build we've ever done. If you're anything like me, you've probably recently had Dune fever ignited because Legendary Studios' Dune Part 2 has been sweeping across cinemas, following on from its successful adaptation in 2021. When we were actually in the USA recently for Adepticon, Jen and I went to a local cinema and caught Dune Part 2 there. I even picked up a copy of Frank Herbert's original book while we were airport hopping around the States. I'd enjoyed the world of Dune as an inspiration for things like Warhammer 40k in the past, so it was great to finally dive in, and I was thinking, what can I do to make this thing I'm interested in part of the hobby that I enjoy? And that's where coincidence comes in today. A fairly long time ago, we painstakingly made a 3D interpretation of the classic Risk map, covering it in putty, flock, texture paints, and even carving the continents out of the classic edition of the board game. The video did well and people noticed, specifically SMG Studio, an Australian-based indie developer who creates Risk Global Domination. They reached out to us and told us that they'd seen our video and they absolutely loved our creation as big fans of Risk, and that they had just partnered up with Legendary Studios to bring Dune to their game. And they wanted to know if we could bring the Dune from their game into real life. So we're going to be bringing one of their new maps to life in physical form by making a diorama of Arrakeen, the capital city of Arrakis, the desert planet that most of Dune's stories take place on. The game map, and by extension the map I'm going to be making today, has been painstakingly made based on movie accurate stills and concept art. And we're going to be making our diorama of Arrakis as movie accurate as possible. And to make it risky, we're going to be overlaying an LED lit acrylic game board on top, so it looks like a holographic battle map of the final war at the end of Dune Part 2. It's detailed, it's ambitious, let's get started. At its core, this project is about creating a gorgeous Dune diorama, and that is our primary focus. The team at SMG have done a great job translating that final battle for Arrakeen onto a Risk map, and we are bootlegging that as a foundation for our board. So Jen takes the in-game still of the Risk map and then flattens it out and vectorizes it. This will allow us to have a rough template for our build. This basically means I know roughly where to put the city dimensions, the city limits, the walls, the Imperial tent. It all vaguely fits and matches up with that concept art. Once we have this, we can take it down to the laser cutter, cutting it out on a piece of MDF to serve as the foundation for our build. Murray, as you are the most qualified laser technician here, what are you about to do?
I believe what I have here is an outline, a vector of the Dune map. So we're going to be able to transpose that on a big piece of MDF, so we have like an idea of where everything is, and we can sculpt.
Yes, we could do this with manual methods, but we have some fancy technology, so we may as well just etch it with the laser cutter. It's gonna be fast, it's gonna be simple, and it's gonna be fun and involve lasers. So now we get to watch some lasers. Well, you get to watch some lasers. We gotta wear eye protection.
I'm Arrakeen to get started.
Once we have this, Murray and I set out to find the perfect picture frame to build our hangable Dune diorama in. Oh yeah, did we mention, just like the first one, this is also gonna be like a hangable painting. This is gonna be cool.
Ah, it's Dune.
Do we need something for the Harkonnen rave party?
Yeah, don't need Bluetooth.
No, I think we want the biggest, most multicolor rainbow for that. Now, one of the reasons I chose cork for the foundation for all of the mountains here is because a lot of materials have an inherent texture to them that can be contrary to what you intend at specific scales. So at this extremely small scale, cork is fantastic because as it pulls and tears, the cork has really sheer and flat sides that also just look like a zoomed out version of natural geographical features on mountains. Other materials such as foam can pill, can pull, can tear, but it leaves a bubbly aerated texture that isn't really appropriate for the kind of rough desert mountains we're going for. The downside with cork is while it's fairly easy to work with, it is harder than foam, and when you're carving significant amounts of it by hand with a knife, it does become a more difficult endeavor. Okay, so my hands are getting really sore because I've been carving foam for, well, a while. A couple of days, actually. Something we learned on the Epic build is how going smaller scale actually makes the builds a lot more intricate. You really need to get it right or else it doesn't look right. And Dune, specifically Arrakeen on Arrakis, it's so much sand and rock and dunes that it's even more important that the subtle distinctions between all the different elements are really well finessed. If these all just look kind of sloppy and blend into each other, you're just gonna have a big patch of sand and it's not gonna look like anything. So this actually feels really good because I'm taking so much time to get it right, and it's a lot of fun to work on this topography. What is cork? What is corkboard? Is it edible? Who knows?
A naturally renewable material made from the bark of the cork oak tree and is harvested periodically from living trees. Corkboard is cardboard made with granular cork.
So, is it edible?
I mean, it's bark, so maybe.
Okay, I've been carving cork for too long. I need to... So we have the mountains all carved out, and this took, well, an embarrassingly long amount of time compared to what I thought. Now it is time to move on to, well, probably not the most time consuming, definitely the hardest part of the build. And that is the Arrakeen residency, the actual city itself, which is all nestled up in these mountains. Now, thankfully, with the latest adaptation of Dune and the movies, they've gone for this really brutalist architecture that also looks like it could exist in a desert and is very distinct from any architecture we see on Earth. Previous adaptations of Dune, it's kind of felt like a Middle Eastern vibe, and I think trying to make that at this scale would have been almost impossible. But with these sharp angles and lots of geometry, we should be able to basically make the semblance of buildings. And I'm gonna start with this front wall. All right, it's day, I don't even know. It's been probably the longest we've ever worked on a video. Not quite, maybe getting close to the Warcraft board. I think I massively underestimated how long it would take to build all of the fiddly little buildings. It's just hours and hours of cutting out tiny bits of plastic, building these intricate sort of city districts, and looking back and realize you've covered like 3 square centimeters of area. So the good news is we've kind of broken the back of it. Jen was hugely helpful, sitting on the sidelines yesterday with me all day just building little city buildings. And I am almost finished the palace, the residency of the Atreides family, which is probably one of the things I need to get the most like screen accurate, and building it at this scale is honestly really fiddly and really difficult. This building is colossal in scale. This is an absolutely massive palace, and to build it I'm going to need to use some consistent height. And while I don't really like foam core for this kind of small scale precision because the paper bends, rips and tears in really weird ways, I am going to use it for the consistent height it will allow me. However, there's a lot of detailing and texture on the surface of the palace that I'm going to need to create by cladding the foam with plasticard. So while most of the other buildings in Arrakeen that I've made are abstractions, this building, the palace, is the most directly built after the movie stills. I use vertically fluted plasticard to create what looks like the vertical windows on the front of the palace, and then use all different textures and tiles, gluing them on in segments to build up the palace. And that includes the Grand Promenade at the front, where the famous date palm trees sit out the front of the Atreides residence that were burnt by the Harkonnen in the first movie. And if you're a fan of the book, you'll know that no one's really a fan of these date palms because they take like 100 people's daily water supply just to keep, but they're kept as a symbol of what Arrakis could one day become. But I'm not gonna dive in and get super nerdy about my love of the Dune universe. Suffice this to say, you can go see the movies to get a better understanding of that. I'm almost finished that, and once that's done, I can then move on to these cities, marketplace and streets areas, and deep Arrakeen. But Jen and I have pre-prepared most of the buildings, so it's really going to feel like once the hill of Atreides' palace has been conquered, we'll be able to go down the other side, build out that city, and suddenly Arrakeen will come to life. It's going to be really exciting to see. I don't think we've ever built something at this scale. It's like 1 to 20,000 scale or something close to that. So yeah, this is wild, and I'm really excited to see it come together, and I can't wait to get some paint on it. We've done many projects in the past, and we have been struggling for a very long time with trying to complete 2 really big projects every single week. And we recently had an idea to start doing more talky style videos midweek, where we do hobby catch-ups, army showcases, that sort of thing. And we promised in doing that that would mean that the projects we work on the weekends can be kind of bigger scope. This project is really the first example of that. This project is already blowing out to be a massive one, but we want that. The reason being is that if we're going to deliver a sort of movie accurate diorama of Dune, we want it to be a great payoff. We don't want to have to compromise on that, and we really hope that you enjoy this style and this level of detail that we can pack into a project. It's because of these Tuesday videos that we're going to be able to do that, so if you're interested in getting to know us a little bit better and also having a more relaxed video you can put on while you're painting, go check out our Tuesday videos. I say Tuesday, it's Tuesday US time, Wednesday Australian time. It's Tuesday night just before we start roleplay. We've stuck around, but I'm sweaty, I'm oily, I'm an oily boy because it's finally done. It's taken so much longer. This has been such a lesson in, well, how long these things take working at this micro scale. Days, but we have it. We have Arrakeen. Now we just gotta put the texture on and paint it. So here it is. This board isn't just the city of Arrakeen, but it represents the climax of Dune Part 2, with the military forces of the Harkonnen, the Emperor, as well as Paul Atreides and his Fremen allies. And with the city of Arrakeen's construction now wrapping up, I've got to move on to the rest of this Dune map, because it's Arrakeen and surrounds. And that includes the spaceport, the Imperial tent, as well as all of these organized regiments ready for war. If you are loving the map we're making, you can play Risk on it as well. Well, not the physical one, maybe. SMG Studios don't know what they're doing with that yet, so stay tuned to their socials to find out, because they're getting this after we finish making it. But for everyone who's happy playing online, Risk Global Domination is currently available on mobile and on Steam, and it is free to play. So if you want to play some Risk with people overseas in an amazing game that's very well reviewed, go check out their Steam page or check them out on your app store. The game is based on Risk, the iconic and beloved board game by Hasbro. And this year, Risk Global Domination has partnered with Legendary to bring the maps and worlds of Dune to your game. As we mentioned earlier, the map we're making today is a 3D representation of the Arrakeen map available in-game, but there are 4 other maps, as well as tons of other Dune-themed cosmetics available for a limited time right now. So you can download the game and play Risk for free, and if you're interested in the Dune stuff, that's all available for purchase, but it's for a limited time. There are also loads of other map packs, so you'll never get tired of playing Risk, as there's always something new to try out. With Risk Global Domination, go check them out now. They're an Australian-based studio, and it's been really great working with them. And given they reached out to us because of our video, we'd love it if you're a Risk fan if you could check them out. But now I've rested my weary crafting fingers for long enough doing this sponsor section, so I'm now going to go on and do something that's going to have a big impact. It's time, of course, to start putting the sand onto our desert planet. So it's finally time to lay down the sand on the Dune board, but because of the scale, we can't actually use sand. A grain of sand would be like the size of a house. So we're using this repair filler. It has a nice texture, which I think will sort of simulate sand dunes. It'll also give us some wavy shapes and a little bit of irregularity, so it will feel like the dunes of Dune, Arrakis. So yeah, I've just got to basically cover the whole board with this, create some waves, create some dunes, and this should start to come together. So I came in the next morning and I was super stoked to see that the sand had worked perfectly. This filler had just made these amazing little dunes across the whole board, and I couldn't have asked for a better result. Jen's in today to help me, and after 2 weeks of painstakingly building tiny little buildings and carving out mountains, I'm so happy to be at the painting stage. Because thankfully, painting landscapes at this scale is a lot easier than building them, because we can rely on techniques such as undertones and dry brushing. And to start setting them out, we're going to use some spray cans. We masked out the board, and then we took it outside for some spray painting. Using black spray paint to get in under all the nooks and crannies, we could make sure that the dark areas were covered, but we did have to be careful not to spray the exposed foam on some of the buildings on the board. So we just used aerosols to lay in some base tones and help separate the sand from the rock. Now, just as SMG Studio had to take some artistic license when they modified these screen caps and concept art to create a map for Risk to make it enjoyable and playable, we are having to take a little bit of license too, and that's just shifting the color values. We don't have the amazing team of cinematographers and VFX artists that Legendary had when they created Dune Part 2, so when you're left with concept art of sand and sandy rocks and a sandstone city, the color values all sit pretty similar. So as you've been watching, we went for some more tonal differentiation. We've made all of the rocks slightly darker brown and all of the sand a little bit more of a yellow. This will pull these two areas apart and leave the khaki tones for the city. This way, all 3 areas at this scale will be nicely distinguished while still feeling realistic and well at home in the world of Dune. It's these slight bumps in color just up and down to help them be differentiated that I think really works to make this board start to pop and come together. This is not really how you're meant to use these awesome Artist Opus dry brushes at all. So don't follow what we're doing with them. We're just using them like beta dry brushes. Shh, don't tell Byron. Dry brushing techniques were our best friends here as we layered on all different colors, making sure to leave nice oranges and reds in the recesses near the sand where it meets the rock. We like to picture this as the spice melange that's mixed up in the sand, but can't be harvested due to it being so close to those rocky outcroppings. Kind of like the tides of spice that are just mixed in and left up on the edges there. These red tones really help it feel like Dune, and I think it works fantastically. We did have to be extra careful as we dry brushed the city, however, as all of those plastic buildings are so small and easy to break. But with all of these elements painted, I'm so happy with the result, but there's something left, something really, really important. But we need to go and take a closer look to work out what that is.
Winter has come early in Australia. It is freezing out in the warehouse, but I'm here for an important reason. So when we started this board, you might remember that we used the laser cutter to set out some designs that Jen had made from the map in Risk Global Domination. However, that has all been covered up, and the final piece, making this a playable Risk board, requires something very special. So all the prep work has been inlaid, but we need to do this now because I need to know where to put all the little battalions in the Imperial tent. It's all been covered with sand. So to make sure it matches the map from the game, so this is a fully playable Risk board as well as an awesome Dune diorama, we're going to be using the laser cutter again. And Lisa, the artist at SMG Studios, made up an SMG that is awesome. There's only one problem. Murray's not here. And he's the expert with laser cutter compared to me. So let's hope I can get this old gal going because I might blow up everything. Yeah, this is a giant laser and I'm in charge of it, and I have technically passed the safety course 2 years ago and have used it twice since. So wish me luck.
Right in my knee. Everything about this machine is scary. It's just loud and obnoxious, like me. All right, I think I've figured this out. Basically, I've had to set the laser at all different powers. Hopefully it works. Let's just try it and film some lasers. Lasers. All right, this looks absolutely awesome, except halfway through the cut, the laser cutter, which did everything just how I wanted,
decided to just cut a random triangle, just straight across everything. Why? The main purpose of this was, of course, though, to test if it fit, see if we need to make any adjustments. I put it in upside down. It's also slightly too small, I think. So thankfully, Jazza, who is a lot more experienced with the laser cutter, has come to help me scale up the second one. We get the rare Jazza cameo. That's exciting. We've got the celebrities in the house.
I've made enough laser cutting mistakes to be pretty useful right now.
Oh, hell yeah. All right.
Did it work?
Yeah. It's perfect. Now I know what my future career is. When I'm like 60, I'm gonna be making like diorama coffee tables with board games built into them. Safe in the knowledge that the acrylic fits, Murray set about making the Imperial Tent. This is the place the Padisha Emperor arrives on Arrakis, and the site of a pretty epic climactic battle. This was scratch built from plasticard, and this was painted up to be reflective and quite a stark contrast to Arrakis's environment. While Murray was making this tent, I was doing some basic digital sculpting, creating some very simple low poly representations of some of the ships from Dune Part 2, with the Harkonnen probe ship from some concept art, as well as the Sardaukar landers and the Atreides troop ships. I threw these on the 3D printer, got some prints done, and then gave them some dry brushes and a few little bits of spot detail so they'd fit in with our board. Now these are all the elements that can be built to scale to represent the map from Risk Global Domination, but there are some regions representing troop movements that are a little too small to model. So with all of these areas, we painted and stippled on regimental outlines, rows of infantry moving about the deserts of Dune. As a finishing touch, I made a little Dune worm. Well, a huge Dune worm. This colossal Shire Halud is very happy the shield wall is down, as it's gonna go eat some Imperial troops. Between this and the 3D printed elements, all of the regions on the map are now represented, and it's almost finished. It's time to fit those LEDs and see if this has all been worthwhile.
All right, this is gonna go in our little indent, which means that this cable can't be sticking out the top. It's gotta go underneath. So it's time to dig a hole. Easy. This is when we find out that the piece of acrylic doesn't fit in afterwards. Wouldn't that be funny?
All right, 2 moments of truth at once. Murray's done a great job fitting these LEDs. Does this fit with the LEDs in? The second test, do the LEDs work? Now is when we find out. Like a glove. It's a movie reference for the young ones. Yes! Okay, now all we've got left to do is we've got to paint up the little spaceships I printed out, and then it's time for the big reveal. This is too hot for TV.
We'd like to give an absolutely massive thank you to our Patreons for sticking with us through our holiday to America and now these transitions. This is the first project that has been given the new treatment. This one has been absolutely colossal, and we've only been able to achieve it through your support, keeping us going while we adjust, while we make new styles of videos, giving us feedback. It's super appreciated. We put out a behind the scenes vlog every week where I go through my feelings, my thoughts, responding to what's going on the channel, our viewership, and where we're going next. And if you'd like to see those every week or join in our monthly mini review, check out our Patreon. It's thanks to your support that we can continue to make this kind of content. And as times are getting tougher and ad revenue is going down, your patron support means more than ever. So thank you so much. And with that in mind, I'd like to thank the newest patrons to join up. Rain Stevenson, Richard Craig, Robert Bell, Cody Ullman, Mitchell McDowell, Pop Goes the Monkey, and a Swift Bass. Thank you all for joining up and for your support. Now, I've still got a bit to go in the classic book. Unfortunately, returning from America meant, well, I stopped reading. It's one of those things. I always read on holidays, but forget to do it when I'm home. But finishing this board has really inspired me to do it. If you enjoyed this build and the finished results, I'd love it if you could let us know in the comments. This was truly a joy. I don't think I can understate how wonderful it was to build something with a level of finesse and quality over multiple weeks. It was just awesome. So we'd love to keep doing really high scope projects that are interesting, but we'll only be able to do it if people like watching them. So let us know what you liked, what you didn't like, and what you'd like to see more of in the future. This is probably one of my favorite builds I've ever done. It's so cool. I've never worked at this scale, and the finished result is fantastic. I rarely have the confidence to say that, but this time I'm really gonna. It's fantastic. This is awesome. If you'd like to play this map, make sure you check out Risk Global Domination. It's available on Steam and on the App Store, and it's completely free to play. But if you want to grab those Dune packs, the bundle is available for a limited time, so make sure you check them out. Links are in the description. I'd like to give a big thank you to SMG Studio for reaching out and personally sponsoring us. As a smaller company who found us by our work, by the earlier Risk video, it's just a really cool connection. And they came down and visited us. We've been chatting the whole time. They're super lovely people. Thanks Lisa and Chloe for coming down and visiting. I don't know why I didn't think to film some of that. I was just so excited to show you the board's progress, but it was a treat to have you here, and I hope you had some fun. For everyone else, we will see you in the next video. We're planning our next big projects, and it'll be really fun to share them with you. But as for now, I've got to pack up that board because that is going to SMG's headquarters, and from there, who knows? Keep an eye on their socials because even they don't know what they're doing with it yet. Thanks everyone.